President Trump vowing an immigration crackdown after the attack in D.C. Danamarie McNicholl is live in West Palm Beach, Florida, with the latest there. Danamarie, to you.
Hi, Molly. Good morning. Last night, President Trump spent the evening speaking with service members, thanking them. But he also took a lot of time to point out his issues with the vetting process of migrants that took place during the Biden administration, especially after learning the suspect who shot those two National Guardsmen was from Afghanistan.
I have a picture of a plane. This is what it looked like when they came in. It was total bedlam. Do you remember that period of time? Total bedlam. People crammed onto the plane. This heinous atrocity reminds us that we have no greater national security priority than ensuring that we have full control over the people that enter and remain in our country.
After the call, the president announced on Truth Social that he is permanently pausing migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover. He also said the U.S. would stop all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens and also deneutralize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility. Now, the suspect of this shooting had ties to the CIA, according to the agency. And last night, when asked about how he must have already been vetted, President Trump had a response. Take a listen.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people. You see them. But look, this is how they come in.
And after that call to the service members, he mentioned that he would be speaking with the family of 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, who passed away due to those gunshot wounds. Molly?
Yeah, our hearts go out to her family, to the whole state, my home state of West Virginia as well. Danamarie McNicholl, thank you. Mike?
Molly, with me now is Jonathan Fahey, former acting ICE Director and former Deputy Assistant Secretary at DHS. Jonathan, good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start with President Trump talking about how the alleged shooter had been granted asylum, and I'll get you to react to it.
When it comes to asylum, when they're flown in, it's very hard to get them out. No matter how you want to do it, it's very hard to get them out. But we're going to be getting them all out now.
What's your take, Jonathan?
I think he's absolutely right. One, it's hard to get people out once they're granted asylum. But you look at this individual and so many others that were ushered in here during the Biden administration's, I'd say, open border scheme that have put people in so much danger. And this person, I know we've heard information that he's been vetted, but really, is it even possible to vet people from places like Afghanistan and other places in a meaningful way? And I think President Trump, the most important thing he's doing, which wasn't done during the prior administration, he's putting public safety and national security first and foremost, and people should not be allowed to come into this country unless, one, we can show they benefit our country, and two, to make sure they don't pose a risk. And President Trump is on that and is going to make sure, I don't know if we could prevent something like this from ever happening again, but we could minimize it. And that's the worst part of this tragedy is, could it have been prevented with more thorough vetting or more serious policy?
From the U.S. Immigration and Citizenship Services Director, Citizenship and Immigration Services Director Joseph Edlow, quote, "At the direction of the President of the United States, I've directed a full-scale, rigorous re-examination of every green card for every alien from every country of concern." How massive of a job is that, Jonathan?
That is a massive job to do that, to reevaluate all these people. But I think the question is it worth it? Because we know under the Biden administration, there was no vetting virtually of all the people. And we don't even talk about the people coming across the southern border that even had less vetting, and people from other countries, from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, that were ushered in and brought in by the Biden administration. But the good news is, now that the border is under control, there are more resources available to vet the people here and to deport the people here, meaning internally within the country.
I want to play some sound from 2021 of senior Biden administration officials trying to assure us these people were being properly vetted, and I'll get you to react.
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process.
We are not conducting in-person full refugee interviews of 100% of the individuals.
What percentage are you conducting?
I don't have that information.
Wait. What number of the more than 60,000 brought to the country, what number have received an in-person interview before they came to the country?
When you're speaking of a full refugee-like interview, I don't have that data.
After an ambush of this nature, how big of an investigation will there be into that vetting process?
It should be completely reevaluated. And what's interesting about that, they were talking at that point, there were 60,000 people that had been brought in. The total number that was brought in under this Biden policy was about 190,000. So the idea that any of these people were vetted in any way but the most cursory way is really, I want to say laughable, but it's tragic. And when you hear, going back to Mayorkas, that was just standard practice from him, never having the information, never wanting to reveal the information. But we know every time they had a choice under that administration between public safety and massive immigration, they always chose massive immigration. And it needs to be reevaluated. What was going on? Is it just simply running someone's name through a system? How would you find that in Afghanistan if they have any criminal record or anything else? It's virtually impossible, but it certainly takes a lot of time per person. And when you're doing 190,000 people, there's no way they could have done anything in any serious way at that point.
Jonathan Fahey, grateful for your analysis and your time today. Thanks so much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.